Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Diksha Bisla, and coming up on the show today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu embarks on his 6th US trip. This is amid escalating tensions in the region and ongoing US-Iran negotiations. And as he prepares to present Donald Trump with quote-unquote principles for negotiating with Iran. Now, it's worth noting that no other leader has visited the US in an official capacity more times over in the past year than Prime Minister Netanyahu. So why now, and what could these principles mean for Tehran? We break it all down for you on the show today. Stay tuned.
Also, coming up on World DNA, we have more reports lined up for you. Fresh questions are swirling around the US Justice Department and its handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Under mounting pressure from lawmakers, US Congressman Ro Khanna has publicly named the 6 men whose identities were previously kept under wraps. Who are these 6 men? What does this imply? We'll get you all the details right here on World DNA. Let's start with the headlines first.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meets Trump's special envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner ahead of a White House meeting with US President, where he plans to present Israel's principles on Iran, including its nuclear program.
I would say that I'd rather make a deal. It's got to be a good deal. No nuclear weapons, no missiles, no this, no that, all the different things that you want.
Donald Trump says he believes Iran wants to strike a deal on its nuclear program, but he is unsure whether any agreement with the current regime would last.
The US and Azerbaijan signed strategic partnership covering economic and security cooperation. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev and US Vice President J.D. Vance signed deal as Washington seeks greater influence in the region.
Russian strikes on eastern Ukraine kill at least 6 civilians, including 4 in Bogodukiv and 2 in Sloviansk. Several others wounded. The attacks in Kharkiv and Donetsk regions target cities.
We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it.
US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick admits to having lunch on Epstein's island in 2012 but denies close relationship. His links are under scrutiny after new emails contradict his claim that he cut ties in 2005.
India will continue to import cheap and high-quality oil from non-sanctioned sources. Officials from External Affairs and Commerce Ministries tell a parliamentary panel in a detailed 3-hour meeting.
Colombian Senator Ida Kilcu rescued by indigenous people after being kidnapped in Cauca by unknown assailants. President Petro also reports an assassination attempt, claiming his helicopter was targeted.
Protesters clashed with police in Albania through throwing Molotov cocktails in the capital and stones at government buildings, while police used tear gas and water cannons. At least 16 officers injured and 13 people arrested.
US markets closed lower on Tuesday. S&P 500 and Nasdaq fell after disappointing retail sales and renewed concerns over massive AI spending by big tech. While the Dow edged higher as investors awaited key labor data and clues on future Fed rate cuts.
The Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has landed at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland ahead of his meeting with the US President.
Well, this marks their sixth such encounter in the US since Trump returned to office a year ago. On Tuesday, Netanyahu's office said that the top priority in his talks with Trump would be the ongoing negotiations with Iran. And the Israeli Prime Minister's office said that he will highlight Israel's concerns over Iran's missile arsenal and not just the nuclear program.
Trump said the Israeli premier wants a deal with Iran and that the current talks on Tehran's nuclear program show promise. In an interview with Fox News, the US president said he thinks Iran would be foolish if it did not make a deal.
A top advisor to Iran's supreme leader discussed ways to reach a balanced and just agreement with the United States during talks in Oman. A spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry said the talks have allowed Tehran to gauge Washington's seriousness and showed enough consensus for diplomacy to continue.
Amid diplomatic efforts, a Wall Street Journal report suggests the Trump administration officials have discussed whether to seize additional tankers involved in transporting Iranian oil. It claimed that they have held off for now, concerned about Tehran's near-certain retaliation and the impact on global oil markets. The US has seized several ships that have carried Iranian oil as part of its 2-month-old blockade of sanctioned tankers serving Venezuela.
A move by the United States to block other sanctioned ships from landing oil in Iran would squeeze Tehran's main source of revenue, expanding the aggressive strategy the White House put in place in December in the Caribbean.
This as threats of US as well as Israeli attacks persist. High-resolution satellite imagery taken on Tuesday shows the extent to which Iran has covered the tunnel entrances at Isfahan nuclear complex with soil.
Now, in the imagery, the middle and southern entrances are unrecognizable and fully covered in soil, while the northernmost tunnel, which features additional passive defense measures, is backfilled with soil. No more vehicle activity is seen around the three entrances.
Tensions have escalated with the US in the backdrop of protests that rocked Iran last month. They were put down by what activists condemned as an unprecedented crackdown by the authorities, with thousands allegedly killed.
On the eve of the annual commemoration of the 1979 Islamic Revolution, residents of Tehran chanted slogans against the Islamic Republic and Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Palestine has launched a bid for presidency of UN General Assembly.
And Palestine is not a full UN member and attends the assembly as an observer state. But despite this, its envoy to the world body has officially launched his candidacy for president of the 81st session of the General Assembly. Riyad Mansour urged member states to recommit to multilateral cooperation, the principles of international law and the founding ideals of the UN. Mansour's candidacy has been endorsed by the UN's Arab group, which represents 22 Arab countries.
The 193-member UN General Assembly selects its leader each year on the basis of regional rotation, and it is the Asia-Pacific group's turn to fill the slot. The president is responsible for presiding over its sessions, representing its decisions, and facilitating negotiations among member states.
Now, the bid has predictably attracted a sharp reaction from Israel. Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon, accused the Palestinian Authority of trying to upgrade its status at the world body through the back door by seeking the presidency of the General Assembly.
And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Take a look.
Palestinian ambassador to the United Nations Riyad Mansour has submitted his candidacy to be president of the United Nations General Assembly, despite Palestine being a non-member observer state rather than a full UN member. The UN still allows Palestinian participation in sessions, but observers normally cannot vote or run for high office. Mansour's move has sparked criticism from Israel's UN ambassador Danny Danon, who described it as an attempt to change Palestinian status, quote unquote, through the back door, potentially turning the UNGA into a platform for anti-Israel messaging and undermining the institution's credibility. Now the focus will be on how UN member states respond. Member states ultimately decide who becomes UNGA president, so Mansour's bid will test international support for Palestinian political influence at the United Nations. Israel and its allies will likely oppose it, while other countries might back it as part of a broader debate over Palestinian status and rights in international forums. The outcome could influence future discussions on Palestinian recognition and UN participation rights as well. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
It has been 10 days since the mother of a famous US TV host disappeared.
And now a chilling surveillance footage has emerged. New images released by the FBI show a masked person apparently tampering with a front door camera outside the home of Nancy Guthrie.
This is the first time since Guthrie went missing more than a week ago. It's nearly 10 days now that law enforcement has provided public details on a suspect or person of interest. 3 videos and 6 photographs released by the FBI show an individual on a deserted doorstep in the dark in eerie black and white imagery. The person is just described as an armed individual.
Nancy Guthrie, mother of Today's Show co-host Savannah Guthrie, is believed to have been kidnapped from her home in Tucson, Arizona. She was last seen on January 31st. Multiple ransom letters were sent to TV stations last week. Savannah and her siblings have released a video saying they are ready to pay.
FBI Director Kash Patel said that the latest images date to the morning of her disappearance, adding that authorities had worked to recover them from residual data.
Footage shows the individual approaching the front door, clad in long pants, a zip-up jacket, hat and gloves, and carrying a backpack. The person's hand looms over the camera for several seconds before he or she turns, looking for something on the ground, then stepping outside the entryway and pulling up some plants. Subsequent footage appears to show the person pushing the plants against the camera.
Authorities say they believed Nancy is still alive and said blood discovered on her doorstep belonged to her. Savannah Guthrie on Monday released the latest video appeal for public help in tracking down her ailing mother, who suffers from heart problems and needs regular medication.
We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help.
Nancy Guthrie's disappearance has garnered massive coverage in US media, and even the White House is keeping a watch. White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt began a media briefing by saying that she and President Donald Trump had just reviewed the newly released imagery.
He and I were both reviewing the newly released surveillance footage from FBI in the Savannah Guthrie case on just this heartbreaking situation with respect to her mother. The president encourages any American across the country with any knowledge of the suspect to please call the FBI, who continue to assist state and local authorities who are leading this investigation on the ground.
All right, and moving on, Russia is upgrading its Shahed kamikaze drones, making them far more lethal. Moscow is now testing Shahed drones and with air-to-air missiles, a major shift in war over Ukraine's skies.
Well, instead of just striking ground targets, the modified drones may now threaten Ukrainian aircraft and interceptor drones if pursued. Here's a report.
Russia is turning its deadly Shahed drones even more lethal. Moscow has been using kamikaze drones to deadly effect in Ukraine. It has intensified the use of attack drones to strike critical energy infrastructure and overwhelm Ukrainian air defenses as the country battles a brutal winter. Now, Russian forces are testing a new modification of Iranian-made Shahed drones. These are equipped with an air-to-air missile, a move aimed at crippling Ukraine's air defenses. Reports say Moscow has begun fielding Shahed 136 loitering munitions fitted with a Soviet-era R-60 infrared missile. But there is a catch. The missile isn't pointing forward. Instead, the R-60 faces rearward while mounted on Shahed drone. This marks a major shift in how the drones are being used in the battlefield. The earlier versions of the modified Shahed carried forward-facing missiles. They intended to threaten Ukrainian helicopters and tactical aircraft intercepting the drones. Experts believe the latest configuration is designed to defend the Shahed drone itself, allowing it to fire back if chased by Ukrainian fighter jets, helicopters, or even interceptor drones. If widely deployed, this crude but clever upgrade could change the dynamics of the counter-drone fight. What was once a simple ground attack weapon may now double as an improvised airborne interceptor, posing new risks to Ukraine's air force. Experts say the system need not be perfect to be effective. Even the threat of a missile launch could force Ukrainian pilots to keep a distance, giving Shahed drones a better chance of reaching their targets. As drones appear to dominate the front lines, Ukrainian troops call for more boots on the ground.
Even the largest army in the world, such as the United States, will not be able to do anything against these drones. Yes, they will have their super awesome Patriots. There will be a lot of air defense systems, but when 1,000 drones take off, no air defense system will be able to cope with them.
With Russia continuing to adapt low-cost weapons with simple modifications, Ukraine's air defenders once again stand challenged. They are pushed to adjust tactics and pay a higher price in an evolving war. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
The US president may have given up his plans for Greenland, for the moment at least, but the Europeans fear that the threat to the Danish territory is not over yet.
French President Emmanuel Macron has cautioned his European allies. He has urged Europe to prepare for a more confrontational phase with the United States.
Now, the French president says, I quote him, Europe should brace for more moments of US hostility, must treat the Greenland moment as a wake-up call to push through long-delayed reforms to strengthen the bloc's global power. The European Union should not mistake a lull in tensions with Washington for a lasting shift despite a pause in US threats over Greenland, trade and technology.
Well, Macron has urged EU leaders to use a summit in a Belgian castle this week to inject fresh energy into economic reforms. A move to bolster the bloc's competitiveness and strengthen its ability to stand up to China and the United States on the world stage.
The French president accused the Trump administration of openly being anti-European and seeking the EU's dismemberment. Macron warned that if Brussels fully applies its Digital Services Act and other rules to major platforms, the US is likely to retaliate with new tariffs on European exports. He asserted that Europe needs to be more resilient in the face of a double challenge from the US and China.
Now, Trump has unsettled long-standing relations with Washington's European allies by taking a more transactional and confrontational approach. This is to their relationship, and the move has led to a crisis in transatlantic ties and prompted European leaders to reassess their traditional cooperation frameworks.
Relations plummeted to a new low last month when Trump threatened to annex Greenland and impose trade tariffs on European countries that opposed the move, before abruptly taking a U-turn. Trump backed off the threats after saying he struck a framework deal with NATO chief Mark Rutte to ensure greater US influence over the Arctic island.
Trump's repeated comments about NATO's spending targets and security commitments have also prompted unease in Europe.
Tariffs on European imports to the US have led to economic friction, while the US has pushed back on moves to regulate digital spaces through the EU's Digital Services Act, which Washington says stifles free speech and is harmful to US tech firms.
Die Abstimmung ist geschlossen. EU-Unterstützung für die Ukraine.
And Britain's Prince William is on his first official visit to Saudi Arabia.
Well, on his second day of a 3-day tour of the kingdom, Prince William watched football drills with local girls' youth squads and also dropped by an esports tournament. In Riyadh, the Prince of Wales visited a girls' soccer training session highlighting the growing role of women in sports in the country. The Prince of Wales was seen interacting with members of the Saudi Women's National Youth Team at the Saudi Arabian Football Federation's Regional Training Centre.
The Prince also visited Riyadh's Sports Boulevard, a major urban development project under Saudi Vision 2030. He also tried his hand at esports tournament and interacted with officials, personnel and professional teams along with their players.
Earlier, Prince William met the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman after landing in the country on Monday. Footage showed Mohammed bin Salman giving a private tour of the At-Turef UNESCO World Heritage Site at Diriyah, the first capital of the Saudi state.
Kensington Palace said Prince William's visit is part of a broader trip focused on Saudi Arabia's economic reforms, sustainability efforts and environmental programs. William's trip follows a 2025 visit by Britain's finance minister that London said helped unlock trade and investment agreements worth $8.71 billion.
But the shadow of Jeffrey Epstein's scandal followed William on this trip as well. He was asked about his uncle Andrew's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. However, he did not reply.
Sir, to what extent do you think the royal family has done enough around the Andrew and Epstein issue? Sir, to what extent do you think the royal family has done enough around the Andrew and Epstein issue?
Well, they prowl the aisles, nap on the chips, charm every customer. Now, New York City is taking an unusual stand for its cats.
Beloved illegal bodega cats may finally get rights in the city that never sleeps. Take a look at this next report for more details.
New York is full of convenience stores called bodegas. They sell everything from beer to batteries to lottery tickets. For decades, shopkeepers relied on a biological security force to keep the city's infamous rodent population at bay. The bodega cats also help entertain the customers.
Simba is very important to us because he keeps the store clean for the mice, and also the people very often they come to visit.
But under current New York City health code, any live animal in a food establishment is a violation. It's a classic urban catch-22. Keep a cat and risk a $350 fine, or lose the cat and face a $2,000 citation for a rat infestation. Now, a new legislation aims to finally legalize the bodega cat. Now, after a campaign garnered 14,000 signatures, a new legislation is being brought to stop penalizing the owners of bodega cats.
In New York City. So technically they're not legal in New York City, so we want to change that because they're here, they're friendly, they're part of New York City, they're part of the bodega, so why not make sure that they can be legal and not penalize the stores or have to find a new home for them.
This isn't just about avoiding tickets, it's a radical overhaul of animal welfare. The proposed laws would mandate cat zones separate from food preparation and require shop owners to provide high-standard veterinary care.
What people don't see is how many are neglected, abused, unwanted, never get veterinary care, end up having kittens, on the street, in the back of the store. Kittens are given away. They're contributing every day to the outdoor cat population crisis that we're trying to tackle by reproducing.
For decades, New Yorkers have dodged rats with a furry ally by their side. These street-smart cats are not pets in the conventional sense. They are survivors, adaptable, resilient, and deeply woven into the fabric of urban culture. Tourists snap photos, locals swap stories. The cats reduce rodents without toxic traps, yet they live in a grey legal zone. Now hopes are that a new legislation would make these cats live in harmony.
And with that, it's time for us to slip into a very short break on World DNA.
Don't go anywhere, lots more lined up for you on the other side. Reports coming in, Taiwan is strengthening its defenses against China. The island nation is positioning US-made weapons at China's doorstep. We'll bring you the details.
Also coming up, the US Justice Department has unredacted more names in the Jeffrey Epstein files after pressure from lawmakers. All this and more coming up on the other side of World DNA. Stay tuned. You're watching Beyond World is One.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Beyond the noise and rhetoric, no election, no ballot issue too small.
Prime Minister
Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. More than just headlines. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION. World is One.
And welcome to a brand new edition of South India, a daily dynamic show that will capture the pulse of southern states.
By blending the special stories, the breaking alerts, and the culture developments as well.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION. World is One.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime is your front row seat to darkness.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Deeksha. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss on this side of the show. Thanks so much for staying with us. Let's start with the headlines.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meets Trump's special envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner ahead of a White House meeting with US President, where he plans to present Israel's principles on Iran, including its nuclear program.
I would say that I'd rather make a deal. It's got to be a good deal. No nuclear weapons, no missiles, no this, no that, all the different things that you want.
US President Donald Trump says he believes Iran wants to strike a deal on its nuclear program, but he is unsure whether any agreement with the current regime would last.
US and Azerbaijan signed strategic partnership covering economic and security cooperation. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev and US Vice President J.D. Vance signed deal as Washington seeks greater influence in the region.
Russian strikes on eastern Ukraine kill at least 6 civilians, including 4 in Bogorukiv and 2 in Sloviansk. Several others wounded. The attacks in Kharkiv and Donetsk regions target cities.
US Trade Representative Jamieson Greer claims that India is reducing Russian oil imports and increasing energy purchases from the United States after Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi agreed on an interim trade framework last week.
Kurdish forces and Syrian army begin withdrawing from front lines in Hasaka after a deal between Syrian government and SDF. Accord calls for Kurdish administered bodies in northeast to be merged with state institutions.
White House says President Donald Trump personally raised the case of Jimmy Lai during his October meeting with Chinese President Xi, as a Hong Kong court sentenced the pro-democracy media mogul to 20 years in prison.
President Trump says the United States should have the lowest interest rates in the world and admits he made a mistake picking Jerome Powell as Federal Reserve Chair, while once again urging the Fed to lower rates to boost the economy.
The Justice Department has unredacted more names in the Jeffrey Epstein files after pressure from lawmakers.
An earlier congressman in the US, Ro Khanna, named the 6 high-profile men that are included in the unredacted version of the documents. Khanna named US businessman Leslie Wexner, the founder of Victoria's Secret. Emirati businessman Sultan Ahmad bin Sulaim, CEO of DP World, Salvatore Nuara, Zurab Mikiladze, Leonov and Nicola Caputo.
Well, Khanna did not provide evidence of wrongdoing against any of them, nor have they been charged with a crime in connection with Epstein. During his floor speech, Khanna said that if he and fellow Representative Thomas Macy found these 6 names while reviewing the files in just 2 hours, he added, imagine how many men they are covering up for those 3 million files.
Lawmakers are also calling for action against Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who has admitted to having lunch on Epstein's private island in 2012, 4 years after the disgraced financier was sentenced for procuring a minor for prostitution.
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it.
Email exchanges included in newly released files also undermined Lutnick's earlier insistence that he had cut all links with the late financier back in 2005.
Well, guess what? The Epstein files new release shows that not only did Howard Lutnick lie to American people, he went into business with Jeffrey Epstein. He visited Epstein Island. And Howard Lutnick did this knowing how evil Epstein was.
Republican businessman Thomas Macy, who co-authored a law mandating the release of the so-called Epstein files, said, I quote here, really, Lutnick should make life easier on the president and just resign.
But President Donald Trump's administration has stood by Lutnick, while White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying that the president fully supports him. She added that he remains a very important member of Trump's team.
Secretary Lutnick remains a very important member of President Trump's team, and the president fully supports the secretary.
Taiwan is strengthening its defenses against China. The island nation is positioning US-made weapons at China's doorsteps.
The ATACMS and HIMARS missile systems are deployed merely 10 kilometers from Chinese shores. Beijing has issued a stark warning to Taipei and Washington. China's Minister of National Defense spokesperson says any attempt by Taiwan or its allies to provoke war will lead to its own destruction.
Taiwan and US have launched Joint Firepower Coordination Center. According to reports, Taiwan has moved its US-made HIMARS rocket systems to its frontline islands near China. The deployments are taking place on the island of Penghu and Dongyin. Both are located in the Taiwan Strait. Dongyin is Taiwan's northernmost island, which lies just 10 kilometers away from Chinese coastline. From this position, US-made ATACMS can strike major Chinese cities in the entire province of Fujian.
M142 HIMARS is a multiple launch rocket system. It is equipped with a ATACMS missile, giving it a striking range of 300 kilometers. Last December, US gave a green light to a new weapons package to Taiwan, and this includes howitzers, HIMARS and Javelin systems.
This has sparked concerns in Beijing. China says Joint Firepower Coordination Center gives US direct control over the target selection and strike planning.
Taiwan's defense minister has refused this charge and called it incorrect and misleading. Taiwan says presence of US personnel is focused on improving its defense capabilities. They do not work as supervisors or oversight authority. And in a landmark verdict, the Philippine Supreme Court has ruled that same-sex couples can be considered co-owners of property.
Well, same-sex unions are outlawed in conservative Catholic Philippines, and it is the only country in the world outside of the Vatican that does not allow divorce. And this has left LGBT couples without legal protections when it comes to property, finance and healthcare.
Applying a provision of the country's family code for the first time, the court said that same-sex couples can be recognized as co-owners if it is proven that both parties contributed to acquiring the property.
Now, this is a ruling which involved a former couple, 2 women. They had sparred over plans to sell their house in suburban Manila. One of the women refused to sell their house after initially agreeing to do so, leading the other to file a claim before a lower court asking to divide the property. The lower court denied the claim, which was affirmed by the Court of Appeals, but the Supreme Court on the 5th of February reversed the lower court rulings. It cited a document signed by one partner and acknowledged by the other, stating that she paid 50% of the purchase and renovation costs, even though the property was registered in only one partner's name to speed up the paperwork, as they were neither married nor related by blood.
In his ruling, Associate Judge Mavic Lenin said that Article 148 applies to same-sex couples. Otherwise, we render legally invisible some forms of legitimate intimate relationships.
Starting from the right side, going to the left. Chubby sissy, sorry.
Well, just a day from now, Bangladesh goes to polls. It is in the final stretch ahead of its unprecedented polls.
Preparations are in full swing across the country with just hours to go before the polling day. According to Bangladesh Police Chief, over 150,000 officers will be deployed for this week's elections, who warned that over half of the polling stations were flagged as vulnerable to violence.
The officers, backed by 100,000 soldiers and other security forces, will guard Thursday's vote, the first since a mass uprising toppled the autocrat that toppled the Sheikh Hasina government in 2024. Hours after the campaigning closed, Chief Advisor Muhammad Yunus called on citizens to back the July Charter referendum, which proposes major changes to the constitution. Yunus added that the interim government would fast hand over power to the elected government.
অংশ তেমনি পরাজয় গণতন্ত্রের অবিচ্ছেদ্য সত্য। নির্বাচনের পর সবাই মিলে একটি নতুন ন্যায়ভিত্তিক গণতান্ত্রিক ও অন্তর্ভুক্তিমূলক বাংলাদেশ গড়ার কাজে আত্মনিয়োগ করুন।
Islamist forces are emerging as a major electoral force in this election, reshaping expectations about the country's political future. Most notably, the trajectory of the NCP, a key student-led force behind the 2024 uprising, which joined the Jamaat-led alliance less than a year later.
There is still a fear, especially for women, if it's going to be safe or not to go to the center, since we have a perception that Jamaat Shibir might come to power this time. There are still questions about whether it is safe for women to go and vote.
Thousands are boarding trains out of Dhaka and heading home to vote in the upcoming elections.
I am going home Kishoreganj to vote, and I will vote for the first time. I am so excited. I was a voter before as well in 2024, but I didn't go to vote as the election was not fair. This time I'll vote for the first time, and that's why I am very excited.
Meanwhile, a 62-year-old Hindu businessman was brutally hacked to death inside his shop in Trishal Upzila in Mymensingh district on February 9th. 3 days before the polls, and the police says unidentified assailants attacked the trader with a sharp weapon before looting his shop and fleeing.
Months earlier, Hindu Deepu Chandra Das from the same district was lynched and burnt, raising serious concerns over law and order and safety of minority communities in Bangladesh, especially Hindus.
Well, apart from that, corruption, a long-standing voter concern, has featured prominently in the campaign rhetorics, with contending parties accusing each other of political gains. It also remains to be seen if reforms, a central idea pushed by major parties, can in fact be turned into reality. And the face-off between the BJP-led ruling government and the Congress party took a turn for the worse.
And this happened as the opposition submitted a notice seeking to move a no-confidence motion against Om Birla, the Speaker of the Indian Parliament's lower house, Lok Sabha. As per reports, the notice was signed by around 118 members of Parliament belonging to parties including Congress, Samajwadi Party and DMK. According to sources, Birla has decided not to attend the proceedings of the House on moral grounds until the disposal of the notice. It is likely to be discussed on the 9th of March. If 50 MPs back the motion, the chair will initiate a discussion on this.
Now, in the notice, the opposition accused the Speaker of blatant partisanship, and they allege that opposition leaders, especially Leader of Opposition Rahul Gandhi, are invariably not allowed to speak. The MPs also highlighted that no action was taken against BJP MP Nishikant Dubey for allegedly making objectionable comments on two former Indian Prime Ministers. These MPs also accused Birla of falsely accusing Congress members of planning a disruptive act during Prime Minister Modi's address in Lok Sabha.
Meanwhile, BJP national spokesperson Sambit Patra came down heavily on the opposition for seeking to oust the Lok Sabha Speaker. He slammed the Congress for harboring an entitled approach.
मगर मैं एक बात कहना चाहूंगा कांग्रेस पार्टी को और खास करके राहुल गांधी को, आप इतने एंटाइटल्ड हैं, आप इतने एंटाइटल्ड महसूस करते हैं अपने आप को कि आप कोई नियम नहीं मानेंगे, आप सदन का कोई भी कानून नहीं मानेंगे और उसके ऊपर आप कहेंगे कि हम किसी पर विश्वास नहीं करते, अविश्वास लेकर आएंगे.
This development comes in the backdrop of the parliament witnessing ugly scenes last week. A sharp row broke out after Birla barred Rahul Gandhi to quote from the unpublished memoir of former Army Chief General Naravane regarding the 2020 India-China border crisis. Additionally, 8 opposition MPs were suspended by the Speaker for unruly behaviour in the House.
The situation escalated even further as the Lok Sabha Speaker revealed that he advised Prime Minister Modi to stay away from the House, citing information that opposition MPs were prepared to protest in an unprecedented manner.
Since India's independence, there have been at least 3 unsuccessful attempts to remove a Lok Sabha Speaker. While the no-confidence motion is unlikely to succeed this time too, as the BJP-led government has a majority in the lower house, it is being perceived as a symbolic move to question the moral authority of the Speaker.
The global tech market is facing a new fault line, and it's not about chips, but memory.
A sharp surge in prices driven by the rapid build-out of artificial intelligence infrastructure is reshaping winners and losers across the tech sector. Take a look at this next report for more details.
Memory chip prices have surged sharply over the past few months, creating a deep divide in global equity markets. While memory manufacturers are seeing record gains, consumer electronics companies are under pressure. A Bloomberg index tracking global consumer electronics makers is down about 12% since late September. In contrast, a basket of memory chip stocks, including Samsung Electronics, has jumped more than 160% over the same period. Investors had anticipated tighter supply, but the speed and scale of the price rise are now raising questions about how long the disruption will last. At the core of the disruption is the rapid expansion of artificial intelligence infrastructure. Hyperscalers such as Amazon, Microsoft and Google are driving demand for high bandwidth memory used in AI servers. Spot DRAM prices have surged more than 600% in recent months, while contract prices jumped nearly 80% in the fourth quarter alone, with further increases expected. Major suppliers are running at or near full capacity, creating what some analysts describe as a new memory supercycle that breaks the industry's traditional boom and bust pattern. The fallout is increasingly visible across the consumer tech sector. Smartphone, PC and automakers are facing higher component costs and constrained supply as memory producers prioritize higher margin AI-related orders. For mid-range smartphones, memory accounts for up to 20% of total manufacturing costs, limiting manufacturers' ability to absorb price hikes. Industry forecasts suggest memory supply growth will remain below historical norms through 2026, increasing the risk of higher device prices, delayed upgrades or reduced specifications. With AI demand still accelerating, investors are now questioning whether the memory shortage will ease quickly or persist well into the next product cycle. Business Bureau WION, World is One.
And WhatsApp has won a fresh chance to challenge a major EU privacy fine.
after Europe's top court ordered a lower tribunal to rehear the case in a ruling that could affect how other big tech privacy fines are appealed.
The case centers on a $268 million fine imposed on WhatsApp over the use of personal data. Ireland's Data Protection Commission, known as the DPC, is the lead privacy regulator for most US tech giants in Europe. Because their EU headquarters are based in Ireland, the Irish regulator initially took action following complaints about WhatsApp's data practices. But in 2021, the fine was increased after intervention by the European Data Protection Board, or the EDPB. WhatsApp then tried to challenge that decision in court, but a lower tribunal rejected the case, saying WhatsApp had no legal right to sue the EDPB. The Court of Justice of the European Union has disagreed and ruled that WhatsApp is entitled to bring its challenge. The court has now sent the case back to the lower tribunal, which must examine the appeal properly on its merits.
The Court Grand Chamber hereby 1 sets aside the order of the General Court of the European Union of the 7th of December 2022, WhatsApp Ireland against European Data Protection Board, T709/21. 2 refers the case back to the General Court of the European Union. 3 reserves the costs.
WhatsApp said the ruling confirms that companies should be able to challenge decisions made by the EU Privacy Board and that the body should be fully accountable to the courts. In the case is expected to shape how future big tech privacy cases are fought and how they're going to be decided across the European Union. And in sports, Pakistan have geared up for the high-profile clash against India in style.
Saibzada Farhan's half-century and Shadab Khan's all-round show helped them beat USA by 32 runs in Colombo. They have now won both their games at the T20 World Cup. Pakistan's clash against USA wasn't just a grudge match. While avenging the shock defeat from 2 years ago would have been on their agenda, it was mostly the last opportunity to iron out any issues before Sunday's all-important clash against India, which only got a go-ahead from their government on Monday. But when they were put into bat first, Pakistan made a fast start. They raced to 54 in 5 overs before losing Sam Ayub for 90. All eyes were then on former captain Babar Azam, who has of late failed to accelerate. The early signs weren't promising and he was forced to play second fiddle to Saibzada Farhan.
Farhan hit 6 fours and 5 sixes to top score with a 41 ball 73. Babar changed gears from the 13th over onwards, and from 15 of 18 balls he raced to 42 of 28, eventually falling for 46. The 81 run stand between the pair helped Pakistan cross the 130 run mark, but they still needed a final flourish, which was provided by Shadab Khan. The all-rounder's unbeaten 30 of 12 balls helped Pakistan post 190 for 9. In reply, US made a decent start and scored 50 runs in the power play. Pakistan spinners turned the screws after the field restrictions were lifted. Mohammad Nawaz was the first to strike as he removed Andries Gose, and Shadab Khan then struck twice in 2 overs as USA slipped to 74 for 3 in 11 overs. Shubham Ranjane, who top scored with a 30 ball 51, added 54 runs with Milind Kumar before much talked about spinner Usman Tariq broke the partnership in the 16th over. Overall, Pakistan's 5 spinners returned with combined figures of 7 for 115 and 16 overs. USA were eventually restricted to 158 for 8.
All things Wallace and Gromit are coming together at a brand new exhibition in London.
Well, ranging from iconic sets and character models to rare behind-the-scenes moments, the show offers a charming look into the world of Aardman Animations, the Oscar-winning studio behind Wallace and Gromit, Shaun the Sheep and Chicken Run.
The exhibition is being held at the Young V&A, a museum designed especially for children and families. Aardman is best known for stop-motion animation, a process where physical models are moved tiny bit by bit to create smooth movements on screen. This exhibition also marks a major milestone for the studio, titled Inside Aardman, Wallace, Gromit and Friends. The exhibition celebrates 50 years of Aardman's work. Over the decades, the studio has created beloved children's shows and even music videos. But it is Wallace and Gromit who remain their most iconic creations.
So Inside Aardman, Wallace, Gromit and Friends is a celebration of 50 years of Aardman animations. They've been making some of the UK's most well-known and well-loved animations since I was a child. I remember seeing them when I was young and being really inspired by them. And my children now watch them with me and they're equally inspired.
Wallace is famous for his eccentric inventions, while his loyal dog Gromit is usually the one who saves the day. The pair first appeared in the short film A Grand Day Out in 1989. Now, the exhibition also pulls back the curtain on how these films are made. The villainous penguin feathers, McGraw plots his revenge. That's also something that you get to see here. And the sets are packed with tiny details, rewarding anyone who looks closely. All right, viewers, that's a wrap on this edition of World DNA. But before we slip into a short break, here's a quick look at all the climate stories making headlines across the world. Stay with us. This is WION World is One.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION World is One.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Beyond the noise and rhetoric, no election, no ballot issue too small.
Prime Minister Benjamin
Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. More than just headlines. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power. Only on WION. World is One.
An election unlike any other. High stakes. Tall promises. And a changed political landscape. A poll without the battle of the begums. The return of Jamaat-e-Islami. And a moment of truth for women and minorities. A country in the middle of uncertain times, standing at the cusp of political change. Who will rule Bangladesh?
Welcome back to WION World is One. You're watching Speed News with me, Vidur Kathuria. Let's get started. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has landed at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland ahead of his meeting with US President Donald Trump in the White House. This marks their sixth such encounter in the US since Trump returned to office a year ago. Netanyahu met Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner ahead of talks with Trump. Netanyahu's office said the top priority in his talks with Trump would be the ongoing negotiations with Iran and Israel's concerns over Iran's missile arsenal besides the nuclear program. Trump said the Israeli premier wants a deal with Iran and that the current talks on Tehran's nuclear program show promise. It's day 45 of protests in Iran. An activist body reports that 6,984 have been killed, including over 6,400 protesters and over 200 children. Moreover, at least 19 prisoners were reportedly executed at dawn in multiple cities across Iran on charges related to drug offenses and murder. Authorities have not officially announced the executions. A total of 676 protest-related incidents have been recorded in 210 cities across 31 provinces nationwide. Protests were marked by nighttime chants, police presence, internet disruptions, and mass arrests. Mass protests in Iran broke out in January when people took to the streets against the regime's crackdown. US President Donald Trump's Board of Peace has reportedly drafted a plan on phased disarmament of Hamas. It plans to share the document with Hamas in the coming weeks, even as Israel signals that progress towards a broader Gaza peace deal remains stalled. According to a report in the New York Times, the draft plan would allow Hamas to retain limited small arms while surrendering most long-range weapons. It claims the disarmament process is expected to take months, with key details on enforcement and weapons custody still unclear. Palestine has launched a bid for presidency of UN General Assembly. Palestine is not a full UN member and attends the assembly as an observer state. But despite this, its envoy to the world body has officially launched his candidacy for president of the 81st session of the General Assembly. The 193-member UN General Assembly selects its leader each year on the basis of regional rotation, and it is the Asia-Pacific group's turn to fill the slot. The president is responsible for presiding over its sessions, representing its decisions, and facilitating negotiations among member states. Russian strikes on eastern Ukraine kill at least 6 civilians, including 4 in the eastern city of Bogodukiv and 2 in Sloviansk. Several others have been wounded. Bogodukiv is located in the Kharkiv region, where Russian forces have recently stepped up attacks on transport and energy infrastructure. The attacks in Kharkiv and Donetsk regions have targeted cities. This comes after Ukrainian and Russian officials held US-mediated talks in Abu Dhabi aimed at ending Russia's nearly 4-year invasion. The two sides conducted a prisoner swap last week, though an agreement to draw a line under the conflict still seems distant. Taiwan is strengthening its defenses against China. It has deployed ATACMS and HIMARS missile systems merely 10 kilometers from Chinese shores. Beijing has issued a stark warning to Taipei and Washington. China's Minister of National Defense spokesperson says any attempt by Taiwan or its allies to provoke war will lead to its own destruction. Taiwan and US have launched Joint Firepower Coordination Center. According to reports, Taiwan has moved its US-made HIMARS rocket systems to its frontline islands near China. The Justice Department has unredacted more names in the Jeffrey Epstein files after pressure from lawmakers. Earlier, Congressman Ro Khanna named the 6 high-profile men that are included in the unredacted version of the documents. Khanna named US businessman Leslie Wexner, the founder of Victoria's Secret, an Emirati businessman who is CEO of DP World, among others. Khanna did not provide evidence of wrongdoing against any of them, nor have they been charged with a crime in connection with Epstein. Lawmakers are also calling for action against Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Lutnick has admitted to having lunch on Epstein's private island in 2012, 4 years after the disgraced financier was sentenced. Colombia's President Gustavo Petro said that he had escaped what he described as an assassination attempt while flying in a helicopter. During a live-streamed cabinet meeting, Petro referred to an event when he said his helicopter could not land and its planned destination because of fears that people were going to shoot at it. After arriving in Cordoba, Petro did a helicopter flight over the area after heavy rains caused flooding. Petro also mentioned he ordered the retirement of a police general, accusing him of trying to sabotage his meeting with US President Donald Trump in the White House on February 3rd. The Colombian senator was rescued from kidnappers as the country's president reported an attempt on his own life in the run-up to the elections that observers have warned could be marred by violence. Senator Ada Kulkiu, an indigenous activist and human rights prize recipient, was taken by unknown people in her home department of Cauca, a conflict-ridden region controlled by large parts by dissidents of the now disbanded FARC guerrilla army. The 53-year-old was rescued by a group of indigenous people hours after the vehicle she had been traveling with 2 bodyguards in was found abandoned. India will continue to import cheap and high-quality oil from non-sanctioned sources. Top officials from External Affairs and Commerce Ministries tell a parliamentary panel in a detailed 3-hour meeting. The officials also conveyed to the committee that India will work on finalizing the interim agreement with the US. This after US imposed a reciprocal tariff of 18% on Indian goods, down from 50% levied earlier. US Trade Representative Jameson Greer claims India is reducing Russian oil imports and increasing energy purchases from the US after Donald Trump and PM Modi agreed on an interim trade framework last week. Three people were killed and another 6 injured after a Pemex pipeline exploded in the isthmus of